Donald Trump has confirmed he will declare a national emergency and use military for mass deportations. What does that mean? Likely means he's going to invoke the Insurrection Act or something along those lines and use the National Guard to deal with mass illegal immigration into this country, all of which is perfectly legal and not really all that shocking. Although I'm not a big fan, I will say this before we get started. It is incumbent upon Donald Trump, his administration, and all those around him to make sure this is done in a measured, reasonable, calm, and strongly nonviolent way. I want to make sure that's very clear. As people are being deported, it should largely be men in polo shirts and khaki pants escorting people to vehicles for which they can be deported, because that's the law in this country. What we don't want to see, and I would not accept, is the loading of people onto in large numbers onto the back of military vehicles, trains, or otherwise. What we want is an orderly, decentralized, systematic deportation of those who have violated the law and are here illegally. That's it. I say this, it's important because this country is at a tipping point. We want to make sure everything's done, dotted the I's, crossed the T's, by the book. And that sounds like what we're getting to. Here's a story from ABC News. President-elect Donald Trump on Monday confirmed he would declare a national emergency to carry out his campaign promise of mass deportations of migrants living in the U.S. without legal permission. Overnight, Trump responded to a social media post from Judicial Watch's Tom Fitton, who said earlier this month there are reports the incoming administration is preparing such a declaration and to use military assets to deport the migrants. True, Trump wrote. Trump pledged to get started on mass deportations as soon as he gets into office. Quote, on day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history to get the criminals out. He said, I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail, then kick them the hell out of our country as fast as possible. Now, I want to stress, he's talking about Tren de Aragua. He's talking about MS-13. He's not talking about some 35-year-old woman and her 7-year-old kid. He is talking about violent criminals. When asked about this, it's been repeated over and over again. Self-deportation will largely be used to deal with people like a 35-year-old mom. How? Cut off their benefits. You can't work here. You're going to have to go home, and they will take care of it themselves. But Trump going after these criminal gangs, yeah, there's going to be some pretty serious law enforcement. They say already he's tapped several immigration hardliners to serve in his cabinet. Kristi Noem, they're going to mention as head of DHS, and Tom Homan as his border czar, which is not a real position. It's a consulting position. Homan previously discussed his vision for mass deportation, saying they would first concentrate on expelling criminals and national security threats. He didn't rule out deporting families together. No, he said he would. When asked, what about families, women with kids? And he's like, they can go home together. There you go. And it's funny because Democrats are like, do you understand what he's saying? He's saying he'll deport U.S. citizens. No, he's saying that if you are an illegal immigrant and your child is a U.S. citizen, they ain't leaving your kid here, but you are getting deported. It's insane that they think that you can use these kids as like an anchor to keep you here. That's disgusting. Throughout the campaign, Trump vowed to mobilize the National Guard to assist the deportation effort. Experts told ABC News such a move would mark a fundamental shift for the military. No, which is not normally engaged with domestic law enforcement issues. It's called the Insurrection Act. When a state is not enforcing its laws, the president has the authority to invoke the Insurrection Act and use the National Guard to enforce laws. That's it. It's not like the Army. It's the National Guard. It's different. At times, Trump went further, suggesting thousands of troops from overseas could be moved to the U.S.-Mexico border, as they should be. There are an estimated 11 million unauthorized migrants living in the U.S. without legal immigration status. Removing them could cost billions of dollars per year. Yeah, it's worth it. How much are we spending in Ukraine? Hundreds of billions? We'll make a trade, huh? Plus, mass deportations could have broader economic impact by resulting in a loss of tax revenue and labor shortages. Do not care. But don't worry. We don't got to worry about the tax shortage because, Elon and Vivek are going to terminate a ton of these government bureaucracies. ABC News chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz recently reported from California on the impact Trump's immigration and mass deportation plans could have on the American agricultural industry. If you took away my workforce, you wouldn't eat. If you go to the San Joaquin Valley and you start doing what you're saying, it's over. The country will stop, literally stop, because the food system won't move. It is laughably psychotic. I say anybody who knowingly is hiring criminal immigrants should be criminally charged themselves, fined substantially. Businesses should be fined. And I give some leeway here. I give some leeway because look, if you're the boss and you did not knowingly hire a criminal immigrant, I don't think that's your fault. If they've got a fake ID, fake paperwork or whatever, and you file everything properly and it looks good, I don't blame you for that. You were defrauded. You're a victim of fraud. These people should be charged with fraud for lying to get jobs. If you're an employer who knew you were hiring, criminal charges. And if you're an employer that looks the other way, fines. Be it $10,000 per day or whatever, or up to a cap of $250,000 or whatever that may be. It's what we discussed on Timcast IRL. Now, of course, our good friend Brian Krasenstein says, breaking, it appears that Trump has confirmed he will force the U.S. military to deport people. Should the U.S. government, via Trump, force the military to deport people? See, it doesn't work anymore, Brian. Okay? You can't just do this. People understand it's not force. I respond with force. You mean give lawful orders? Dude, Trump's saying this person's here illegally. You're ordered to enforce the law as it's written on the books. There's nothing illegal or wrong or forced about that. That's just following orders. If he instructed them to go into facilities, and this is important too, because if Trump orders these people in the military to round people up in any way that is not an orderly, reasonable, and comfortable, within reason, I say reasonable, way, if these people are brought to facilities where they're injured, getting sick, or losing their lives, I will not tolerate that. But I do not expect that. But I'll tell you this, Brian, if we start seeing en masse, people rounded up and brought into camps where they starve to death, yeah, I will be on the front lines of those protests alongside you 100%. It's not going to happen, though. What's going to happen is it's going to be, I got to be honest, marginal. I don't think Trump is really going to do this grandiose marching into the National Guard, as people might imagine. I think we may see a national emergency declared. Federal agencies are going to be deployed first. CBP, ICE. They're already talking about moving agents off of desk duty and into field duty. And then National Guard will probably help facilitate transport, but not do boots on the ground enforcement unless things escalate. So I say these people are way over the top. In response, Stick, Sex, and Hammer says, good. Brian's response. Do you really believe that this is a job for the military? Separating families and pushing people who contribute to society out of the country? Do you believe in due process? Brian, if they are proven to have broken the law, we follow the law and deport them. It's not a question of what I want. It's a question of what the American people agree upon. To which Stick said, I believe in enforcing laws together. He says, do you really believe it's a job for the military? It's codified. Yes, it's in the law. If you are here illegal, you get deported. Next question. Is it a job for the military? Yes. When states like California are not enforcing the law, it is within the authority of the president to invoke the Insurrection Act, to use the National Guard, to nationalize them so that they can be used to enforce the law. Separating families? Are you implying that if someone commits a crime, the kid should go to jail? That makes no sense. I can't believe that to these people, the worst thing imaginable is that we're giving them a ride home. So imagine it this way. You got a crummy house. You're not a rich family. And you're hanging out at your friend's house, and they're rich. And they're having pizza, stuffed crust with all the dipping sauces you can imagine. They let you have some. And then the dad gets home, and he says, Jimmy, it's getting pretty late. How about we give you a ride home? Oh, heart attack. You're going to make me go back to my house? But if I go home, I don't have deep dish pizza, Buffalo Wild Wings, and PlayStation 5. Yeah, we're going to give you a ride home. You don't live here. You can't just eat our food all day. There's nothing wrong with that. It's funny because in any normal circumstance, like, thanks for the ride, I guess. Can I stay the night? No, we don't. You don't live here. We don't want you to stay too much. It's fine. You had some of our food. That's called tourism. Now you go home. You don't live here. But if you're hiding in the basement, they're going to take you and be like, look, I'm driving you home. You can't stay in my house. And they drop you off at home. Is it the worst thing in the world? How about this? A family is over for dinner. And once dinner's concluded, they say, thanks for visiting. It's getting late. We'll see you to the door. And they go, well, why don't we hang out longer? And they go, well, you can't. Well, we're going to stay. Okay, now we're telling you you're leaving. In fact, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drive you home, but you're leaving. Let's go. Is that really the worst thing in the world? But what about our kids? Our kids have been here all day playing with your kids. I don't care. But but our kids, they were born here. Dude, you're getting a ride home. That's really what it is. It may not be the most comfortable vehicle, but it's certainly better than us just dumping you off in the desert. You get a ride home. We foot the bill. There you go. That's unfair to us. How about we charge your government? I think we should do this. Donald Trump, calculate when you deport people, the location of these individuals, and then you can tell those countries they got to pay the bill. How about them apples? Really, I'm not shocked by this at all. It actually sounds decently reasonable. I'll leave it there, though. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com to support our work. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. YouTube.com/TimcastIRL. Don't forget to pick up your Cast Brew coffee at castbrew.com, and we'll see you all next time.